All right, we're waiting for Adam Klasfeld. Is this exciting? This is like old-timey television. Okay, here we go. I think he's going to join, and we're going to go right to Maduro arraignment. Look at this. We just have to get his camera. Hi.
Hey, Michael, how's it going? Happy New Year.
You got sick. Happy New Year to you. That is a very warm coat, although you might want to button it up there. We don't need you
And
getting
a little
cold.
bit of an unseasonably warm day for early January in New York City, so I can leave it unbuttoned.
All right.
Welcome.
So I gave everybody the kind of what would have happened in an arraignment today, but you know what did happen. Give us it all. We got Hellerstein. Who are the lawyers? Well, what is the guilty plea? What happens next in the case from your understanding?
Well, the plea was not guilty. The first thing that I have to mention, just sequentially, when he went into the courtroom, Nicolás Maduro had addressed, there were press sitting in the jury box. He gives a little gesture to them, says, Happy New Year, takes a look into the gallery and says, Happy New Year 2 times more. The proceedings begin shortly after that. A little bit after noon, Judge Hellerstein goes up to the bench. And it is in many ways, a typical arraignment where the defendant pleads not guilty. He has read his rights, which in this case involves consular rights that he and his wife, Celia Flores, say that they will avail themselves of. But as you know, this is not a usual case. Nicolás Maduro begins when asked his name, simply his name, replies with, I am the president of Venezuela. And he is eventually, after a little bit of time, interrupted by Judge Hellerstein, says you'll have every opportunity to make those arguments. Right now, I am asking your name. Are you Nicolás Maduro Moro?
What we lost
says,
you.
yes.
You froze for a minute. What he made it, other than saying I'm the president of Venezuela, he made some sort of beginning argument for immunity or otherwise.
He made a political speech, essentially. He referred to himself as a kidnapped president. Now, at that time, it is worth noting some of his critics were in the courtroom. The marshals tried to keep everything very orderly, and they said, whatever happens in court, that you should make no public expressions. There was one person in the courtroom who had strong feelings about what he was seeing. His name was Pedro Rojas. And when Nicolás Maduro described himself as a captured president, yelled out in Spanish, jamás, meaning never, that he will never be the president of Venezuela anymore. After the proceedings, when Maduro made a similar statement about being the president of Venezuela, Mr. Rojas shouted out, illegitimate.
Let me ask you 2 questions. Who's representing him? Who appeared for him? Public defenders or private counsel? And then I have a question about 90-year-old Alvin Hellerstein and how spry he looked up on the bench handling this case. Who's representing Maduro?
So you have 2 people representing Maduro who appeared in court and spoke on his behalf today. The first was Julian Assange's former lawyer, Barry Pollock. Barry Pollock has revealed a little bit that he is going to argue that there are questions about the legality of what he described as Maduro's military abduction. So we know that later on in the year, there's been a preliminary hearing scheduled for March 17th. We don't know everything that will be argued at that time, but as a little bit of a preview, we will have a legal reckoning over the legality of the raid that captured Nicolás Maduro.
Now, I know Barry Pollock, and I know Barry Pollock's firm reasonably well, Harris, St. Laurent, and Wexler in New York. Andrew St. Laurent is a friend of mine, and we had been opposed to each other in some cases related to Cantor. It's a good firm down in the financial district. Barry, as you said, represents Julian Assange. One of the things I told our audience is one of the things that the government may try to argue, unless Barry's doing it for free pro bono, is that where is Maduro getting the money from? And it can't be tainted cash. Did that come up at all about that or bail or anything like that?
No, so there's an initial appearance, very, very preliminary. I should mention he has another counsel, David Wickstrom, who was one of the attorneys for a co-defendant of another name that might be familiar to those who are following this entire saga, Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, who Donald Trump pardoned. So Mr. Maduro is being represented both by Barry Pollock, Julian Assange's old lawyer, and David Wickstrom, a public defender, in the conspiracy case involving the former president of Honduras. Now, a couple of notes just about where I am, Michael. Behind me is federal court for the Southern District of New York. You can see this building. I'm just going to move the camera. The courtroom was at the top of the building in the far building back there. That's 26A, room 26A, the ceremonial courtroom, just to accommodate the public interest. There are many rows of press. There are many rows of the public that were allowed in. I am currently in a press pen. Behind me, there's a pretty sizable protest across the street from 500 Pearl Street. Across them. And so a lot of people from who are Maduro critics, there's a sign right across me, stop illegal war on Venezuela, get in the streets. So it's and so every view represented here at 500.
That's a great painting that your picture that you're painting there. In terms of our audience and the questions they're asking, that means he's staying in pretrial detention, the federal detention center, through March. Although they may be an attempt to try to get him out on bail. He'll never get out on bail. I've already managed expectations on that. P. Diddy didn't get out on jail. This guy's not getting out on jail. But the issues that a lot of people are asking in the feed, like, well, how can we try a head of state? And how can we just bring him into jurisdiction? The jurisdictional issues, the head of state immunity issues, all of that is for his lawyers to raise with motion practice. That sounds like it'll time out around March as the government produces all of the documentation that's necessary under a body of law we call Brady to prepare the case for trial. Has the trial date been set or just a preliminary control date?
Exactly. A preliminary hearing date. It's going to be March 17th. So I'll be back here on that date. Basically, it was a very preliminary matter. He was read his rights. As a matter of fact, Mr. Maduro said at one point when asked if he was informed of his rights, he said, I was informed about them by you, Your Honor. I'm just learning about them now. His wife, Celia Flores, responded that she understood her rights. You had the assistant U.S. attorney making sure that every T is crossed, every I is dotted.
Who was that? Who represented the government?
Excuse me, I have it written down. It wasn't someone who, this is my longtime beat, the Southern District of New York, and this was not a name that I immediately recognized. I believe Kyle Rushbound. I'm going to look that up. That's what I heard. It wasn't the name that I recognized.
So let me take a break here for a minute. If you love what we're doing with Adam Klasfeld of All Rise News, standing on an unseasonably warm day in front of a courthouse moments after leaving the Maduro indictment to brief our audience, go up to that button somewhere above. There's a chyron, and you'll see whether you're already subscribed to Adam Klasfeld All Rise News. If you're not, this is what, Adam was in Wisconsin for the trial of Hannah Dugan. He's here. He goes to Washington to get in the courtrooms for indictments against Donald Trump's critics. This is what pays his bills. Think about becoming a paid member of All Rise News and support while you're there. You'll see whether you're a member of Legal AF or not. And I don't know about you, Adam, maybe you'll announce something. We're running a 20% sale on Legal AF paid membership, which goes a long way to keep our media independent, our commentary independent. And as we expand on these global issues for 2026, which we have to dust off our Noriega primer about 36 years ago and all the arguments raised. We have a weird collision, right? We got the body of law coming out of Manuel Noriega being taken down. and successfully prosecuted in Miami and sent to a 40-year prison sentence, although he got extradited to France about halfway through. And then you've got the U.S. versus Trump immunity decision, which his lawyers are going to cite along with other bodies to say no jurisdiction, illegal kidnapping, and everything he was doing was as a head of state. Now, that puts pressure on the Trump administration to stop talking, which they won't do, about regime change and aligning with political interest and aligning oil interests with our oil interests and not talking about cocaine at all. Because the less they talk about cocaine and the more they talk about political regime change, the more it plays into the hands of the lawyers for Maduro to argue, this is politics. I get immunity.
Well, we'll see. We know that is going to be litigated. I will say another thing that we will find out more information on is details of the raid. One thing that was very visible from Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, she had bandages over her, I believe, right eye and forehead. And according to her attorney, and this is a quote from my notes here, had a fracture or severe bruising on her ribs. So there might be litigation about what happened during the raid and the testing of the claims by her defense attorney. You had mentioned the Manuel Noriega case. That's going to be a very important one. Of course, Manuel Noriega was whisked to the United States, tried on drug trafficking, racketeering, and other charges, and convicted, and those convictions were affirmed. Now, one difference, we'll see whether this gets litigated and what the outcome of that is. The legislature, the National Assembly, then under Noriega's control, had declared war on the United States. And so we'll see what differences that Maduro's lawyers are going to point out to distinguish that case.
Well,
what's going to be the future of when we have an indictment anywhere in the world of any person? What guardrails exist, if any, on executive power? That will be litigated as this case proceeds.
Delcy Rodriguez, the remaining vice president, along with a number of the Maduro regime that are still in control, they didn't declare war today. They declared oil today,
right?
And that they're going to become compliant and they're going to become docile when it comes to the American oil interest. I mean, she basically said it out loud. Which every time it's about oil and it's about reorienting them not towards democracy but towards American interests and less about cocaine and machine gun trafficking, the more it plays into the hands and makes this different than Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega. A lot of our audience had a couple of comments. Let me read them to you. One, they recognized that it was St. Patrick's Day for the hearing. Second, potentially. Second, they made a comment. One guy, Edward Iannucci, he says he was at the I don't know why, maybe he's a reporter. He was at the MCC Miami when they brought Noriega in. I'd like to hear more about that, Ed. Put some comments in about that. And a lot of people, big supporters of yours. They love the way you roll your R's when it comes to pronouncing people with Spanish last names.
Well, thank you.
Are you a native? Do you speak Spanish?
I speak Spanish, un poquito. I've reported in Latin America a bit. I studied it in high school and college.
Yeah.
And you pick stuff up. I wouldn't call myself anywhere near fluency or native speaker level, but I understood enough to know some of the exchanges between Maduro
insults
and one of his critics in that courtroom. Again, just something that will not be picked up even by folks who are watching from the press room, from the courtroom. The mics did not pick it up. When Mr. Maduro was asked his name and he went into a speech about being the president of Venezuela, a person in the audience, in the gallery, shouted out "Jamás," Spanish for never, and was promptly warned by the court security officers, because no matter how emotional one gets about seeing an authoritarian ruler inside a courtroom, or about the events that brought him there, what everyone feels about it, you should be the rules of the courtroom are to be silent. However, it led to some very interesting courtroom moments, and I'm doubt very much that it will be the last.
Got it. Yeah, the two one observation, then one question for our audience. And thank you for all being here. Up to 2,100 people. Take a moment, subscribe to Adam Klasfeld if you like this kind of in real time, in the moment reporting. Can't find any seat of your pants. Can't find anywhere else. It's coming from Adam Klasfeld, All Rise News. Proudly also a contributor on Legal AF. Now's the time to become a member of both. If you can swing paid membership, I'll give a 20% discount on my end to get people to encourage them to join what we do here. In about a half an hour, Substack will post this video in its entirety, and you can watch it. For those that are joining a little bit later in progress, you can grab it there. And if you become a regular member, you can leave comments along the side. On the split screen is fascinating here. I'm in Miami, as people know, and I'm pretty close to the Venezuelan community here, Venezuelan American, and people here that are under different type of immigration status. And it's really weird right now because in the streets of Doral and Kendall and Weston and downtown Miami, everybody's excited and happy because they thought the country was liberated for democracy and freedom. And so you had that. And then they woke up the next morning to realize the country had not been liberated, just the leadership had been kidnapped, but they were going to leave the security infrastructure in place, which includes, there's a reason that she might have gotten roughed up, the first lady there, because over 100 people may have been killed in this Delta Force operation, including 35 or 40 Cuban security team guards, because Maduro didn't even trust his own people. He would trade oil for Cuban mercenaries to be his security team. Because you have one failed nation state puppet of Russia helping the other. So you've got that split screen, everybody excited with the flags, everybody's like, okay, great. And then you had the people in country in Venezuela not so happy the next day because they're still under the thumb of the dictatorship. Martial law called. They don't know who's their leader. And the people they voted for, this is where Trump has undermined democracy. No shit, because he undermines democracy in his own country by doing a strong arm and sidelining the legitimate opposition party in exile with Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado, who won 90% of the vote. This is who the people of Venezuela, when liberated, want to see running their country. This is why she won the Nobel Peace Prize. But the Donald Trump, who crapped all over her, right, and undermined her, Marco Rubio, they said to Marco Rubio yesterday, I don't know if you caught it on Face the Nation or one of them, they said to her, wait a minute, you're the same Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, who was celebrating the opposition party winning and saying they're the legitimate government. And now you don't even have a conversation with Machado and Gonzalez about installing them. And they're, times are different. This is about a military operation over oil and oil embargo. You got this very weird split screen of people not in the country going liberation, but it's not a liberation. And that's what we're now waking up to, that cold reality today under Donald Trump, right?
Right. Well, there is this idea and this reality that the regime may just be under new management. And I have a story about this on All Rise News today about how challenging coverage of this trial is for those who care about, think about, write about democracy and the rule of law. You have to make space for the fact that this was a defendant who had declared victory after a sham election in 2018, and in 2019, the National Assembly declared him a usurper and an illegitimate ruler. And that's the Carter Center, the gold standard of election watching around the world, had declared that he falsely declared himself the victor of the 2024 election. So you have to make space for the reality of that being the criminal defendant. You also need to make space for everything that preceded him being in this courtroom. The fact of the raid, the fact that his number two, Delcy Rodriguez, is now in charge of the government, and that the Trump government is now making or attempting to make deals with them. I think that's why these proceedings, I just want to finish it.
Yeah, of course.
proceedings, court case is so important. It's where all of that will be litigated. The legality of the raid that led to this stay in court, where the allegations of the indictment. If all of the skeletons in the closet of these two governments break out into open view, that creates pressure. It creates pressure for change in the United States. It creates pressure for change in Venezuela. I have covered many cases in this court that have international ramifications. A multi-billion-dollar money laundering case that was of high interest to the people of Turkey. When things get litigated in open court, things have a way of resonating internationally. And that's why it's so important in a case like this to make space for the really complicated nature of the rule of law and democracy questions that are involved and give it its full force, full expression.
Adam, as we end here, tell us about Judge Hellerstein, 90-year-old Clinton appointee, senior status, no federal magistrate today handling the arraignment. Judge Hellerstein, he of those amazing fedoras and wide brim hats that he likes to wear. He's already tussled with the Trump administration or with Donald Trump once before, particularly about whether Donald Trump would be able to take his, a 34 count criminal prosecution for the Stormy Daniels cover-up issues from state court over to federal court. It was denied federal officer removal by Hellerstein, who famously, and I'm paraphrasing, who famously said in his opinion, a private affair is not a public presidential power or of a federal office. So no, you're not going to be able to take your cover-up of your private affair over to federal court under federal removal. So he doesn't suffer fools lightly. He's also 90. Talk about him in the courtroom, and the case will go fast, but
right.
Is he going to be the judge for the case?
Yes, absolutely. So he has been presiding over this entire. This is not a one-person or a two-person indictment. It's a sprawling indictment. There have been guilty pleas before him. He's a 92-year-old judge with a storied career. He holds the government's feet to the fire again and again. He began these proceedings saying that it is his job to give Mr. Maduro and Ms. Flores a fair trial. He began the proceedings by saying that. He also presided over a case that is very closely related to this. It is the Alien Enemies Act case. And you may remember, I'm sure you do, Michael, the Alien Enemies Act justification was that this Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, was allegedly involved in an invasion, according to the Trump administration, on U.S. soil. It was Judge Hellerstein who rejected the basis of the Alien Enemies Act proclamation in this courtroom in a scathing ruling where he said that now remember, some folks who are watching, when more than 200 men were whisked out of the country on the basis of the Alien Enemies Act proclamation to El Salvador Seacop, who described that prison as and he said that it violated the have sent them there in March 2025. This is a tough judge. This is a judge that will hold the Trump administration's feet to the fire and no doubt present the allegations against Mr. Maduro quite fairly. He is a judge who has ordered in the past the release of the Abu Ghraib videos. He has a long history of upholding constitutional rights and also fairly conducting trials. A long storied career of a nonagenarian judge.
Yeah. I haven't heard that in a while. Well, I love it. This is the revenge of the senior status judges. I've told you, like people like Charles Breyer in San Francisco holding Donald Trump accountable in the Posse Comitatus and the National Guard cases, Judge Young up in Massachusetts. I mean, every time you got two choices. You either leave the bench like Judge Wolf from Massachusetts and you go on the offense, and he's in his late 70s and early 80s, the Republican appointee, against what he sees as a lawless presidency, and do it from outside because you're limited to what you can do inside. Or you sit in your chair, you don't retire, and you continue to take the cases that matter to the American people. And each one is, I'm not criticizing Judge Wolf. In fact, we're bringing it back on to do some interviews in the next week or so. But it is important. The senior status judges are so important in this trying time because, let's be frank, they have this is not a legal term. They have the fuckets. They don't care about, they don't care. They're not, John Trump can't, I mean, they could get death threats, but they don't care about what Trump does to them. It's either retirement or this. And they do feel strongly. And they have that historical context and perspective that sometimes is lost in the moment. I'm all about young judges that come from different walks of life, but they haven't seen it all. They haven't, as a 90-year-old Judge Hellerstein has, sitting in Southern District of New York. I mean, you've been covering courts for over 10 years. I mean, you know Hellerstein. He's the same guy now as he was 10 years ago.
Absolutely. And he's a witty judge. I mean, he started off the proceedings. He's not a tall man, and less tall now that he's in his 90s. And as he sits down on the bench, there are monitors from which, during a trial, the parties and the judge will look at the transcript in real time. And he said, it's one of the disadvantages of being short. You get obscured by the technology. So, this is a soft spoken when Mr. Maduro went on his speech in response to a question about his name. He didn't get angry. He didn't bang his gavel. He just politely reminded him he will have the opportunity to air all those arguments as the proceedings go on. He is simply asking him his name. So he is challenging to all parties, but and very human and very tough. He's been around the block many times.
There's Judge Hellerstein, and I'm a hat guy. I wonder if he shops at JJ Hats like I used to shop.
Yeah, no, he brings envy to the people who appreciate such hats. It's a great hat.
It's a great hat. And you're a great reporter and friend and colleague, and glad to have you back. You took some well-deserved rest over the holidays with your family and beautiful wife and all. We are glad you're back. I am selfish. We are glad you're back and doing regular reporting for both All Rise News and for Legal AF. Take a moment before we end here, folks. Check the little button. See if you already are a subscriber or not. If you're not, hit the subscribe button. You'll be able to participate in comments. You'll be able, as Adam taught me once, you'll be able to get the video when this video goes up. We're at an hour. Wow, we're at an hour and 10-minute mark with Adam's joining. And so you want to watch what happened before also and send it off to people in your life. Ask them to join. And if you can swing a paid membership, that's what keeps Adam Klasfeld on the courthouse steps, inside the courtrooms, doing the reporting that he does and what we do over on Legal AF. Now is the time. I'm running a 20% off sale to help us continue to grow for 2026. So until our next report together, we got to get back to doing our videos, but you just got it, a real live in the moment report. Adam Klasfeld, Michael Popok about the Maduro arraignment and beyond here on Legal AF Substack. See you soon.
Thank you, Michael. See you soon.
Bye, Adam.